Psychology, neuroscience, and philosophy all attempt to completely define the human self, yet they speak in completely incompatible languages. We have three historical silos. Psychoanalysis relies on the Freudian tripartite system of the id, ego, and superego. Neuroscience maps localized brain networks. Ibn Arabi's Sufi hierarchy describes a multi-layered refinement of the soul. The Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM, provides a technical bridge. It defines the self as a dynamic system designed to process and route psychological strain. This flowchart builds the foundational equation of identity. Mental activity follows a strict sequence. It begins with an input strain, moves into memory resonance to activate past patterns, shifts to evaluation for cognitive comparison, and finishes with a response. Identity functions as an active, mathematical processor of internal and external pressures. It calculates balance. We will test this theory by deconstructing a highly coherent dream state, analyzing its environment as a quantifiable space of memory and strain. This photograph establishes the origin space of our dataset, a poor urban birthplace known as the Tehranchi Alley and Bazaar Ahangara. In BKM architecture, physical space encodes deep-rooted identity memory. This specific location serves as a continuity anchor linked to the amygdala. The dream immediately presents a structural anomaly. The walls of the old birthplace remain intact, but the spatial mapping has been repaired and regularized. This renovation process represents the ego working with the hippocampus to perform active cognitive restructuring on the memory itself. The system is optimizing the geometry of the identity space. It repairs the mapping to make the past navigable while keeping the old walls to preserve the foundational memory. In the Brain Kinematics Model, dreams function as active, high-stakes simulations, carefully designed to rebalance the system's internal strain. Moving deeper into the environment, this high-angle photograph shows the complex, crowded structure of the Bazaar alleyway. Within the model, this environment generates origin strain. The dreamer explicitly reports pride in this poor birthplace, labeling it positive origin strain within the system. We can map this raw emotional connection to origin to Freud's id and the commanding self in Ibn Arabi's hierarchy. This base-level affective drive provides the necessary emotional charge for the system, but it requires higher-order cortical processing to reach structural integration. To maintain the structural integrity of the wider identity network, this raw emotional origin must be preserved rather than suppressed. The narrative tension escalates in the second sequence. A series of achievement certificates belonging to the dreamer's father begins to appear. The first certificate presents a clear visual anomaly. It is golden and high value, but the name is poorly mapped and extended to the side because the creator system simply was not designed to accommodate his family. This symbolizes a structural fact. The father's intrinsic creative value exceeded the capacity of society's available recognition framework. This equation illustrates the conflict mathematically. The dream operates on a high emotional distance from balance, represented by delta E. Here, E0 represents the expected balance, the true creative worth of the father. E represents the actual, limited societal outcome. The difference between these two variables creates a massive load of unresolved injustice strain that the brain must process. This injustice detection process aligns with Freud's superego and Ibn Arabi's reproaching self, the layers of identity that exist entirely to calibrate ethics. Ethical awareness emerges as the prefrontal cortex actively calculates this mathematical distance between biological merit and structural reality. To process this injustice strain, the dream constructs a multi-agent network. This network topology maps the three primary agents operating in the simulation: you, the father, and society. The link between you and the father carries the flow of inherited dignity. The father's hidden creative richness passes directly to the observer. The link between the father and society generates the injustice strain. High inner value met low outer reward, creating structural friction. The final link, connecting you to society, acts as the site of ethical evaluation. Here, the brain performs its final arbitration on the broken recognition system. The self emerges here as the entire active network, working to balance these competing strains across the whole system. This macro network processing maps to Ibn Arabi's complete self, where disparate fragments of identity are integrated into a unified continuity. Identity functions as a relational geometry. It requires a network of distinct agents. To avoid system overload, the dream simulation separates its processing data into two distinct focal points. The first point is the center of image, or CI, representing the simulation's emotional peak, the raw pain of the father's outcome. The second is the center of meaning, or CP, isolating the structural logic, the objective mismatch between human value and recognition. The CI processes the biological reality of the pain, while the CP processes the executive understanding of the structural cause. Separating the affective peak from a structural cause allows the system to resolve the tension without the executive center being overwhelmed by raw emotional load. The dream's final action brings these variables together to restore balance to the network. This reveals the core synthesis. Origin plus value plus misrecognition leads to identity reconstruction. The ego acts as the central router. It organizes strain inputs on the left, ensuring the superego's justice aligns with the id's emotional roots to produce the kinematic output. The brain is actively building a fairer internal structure to compensate for a societal system that failed. This framework provides the technical vocabulary to align Freudian psychoanalysis with the spiritual progression described by Ibn Arabi. The human self operates as a complex, multi-layered stream processing system. It is an evolving continuum, constantly calculating the distance between intrinsic truth and external structure.